But there are certain gimmicks that are so awful that even the wrestler using the gimmick comes to loathe everything the gimmick represents. This specific gimmick usually represents a low point in a wrestler's career, and they will do anything they can to move away from the gimmick and try something new. But which gimmicks were they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 WWE wrestlers who hated their own gimmick. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out Wrestlelamia.co.uk and our non-wrestling channel, Incredible. Number 10. Wade Barrett. Wade Barrett was on the run of his career as Bad News Barrett when the WWE abruptly decided to completely change his gimmick. Barrett would win the 2015 King of the Ring and adopt the typical King persona. This was a complete waste, as Barrett was super over with his prior gimmick and this new gimmick fell completely flat. It was lackluster and fans could sense that Barrett wasn't invested. He hated the gimmick so much that it led to his actual WWE departure. Discussing the gimmick with Chris Van Vliet, Barrett revealed, "Bad News Barrett all got completely taken away from me, which I thought was a very bad idea at the time, and I was given the role as the King of the Ring, which I didn't want to do from the word go. And I was aware there was no writing backing this up, and I felt very much that I'd been booked into a corner of just a dead end. So to have that taken away from me for what I thought was incredibly poor foresight of giving me the King of the Ring, and then to follow the King of the Ring up with what I felt was really poor writing and booking, it was the final straw after I dedicated so much time and effort in progressing in the wrestling world. To see that was my reward was very disappointing. I became disillusioned at that point. At that point, I felt that I needed to get out of here." Number 9. The Goodfather. In the year 2000, WWE believed that the popular Godfather character had grown stale, and they wanted to shake things up. The Godfather would now become the Goodfather and join the villainous stable known as Right to Censor. The gimmick would be a complete contrast to the prior gimmick, as everything that made Charles Wright in the Godfather gimmick fun and likable was removed. Although it was interesting to see the talented Charles Wright do yet another character, he absolutely hated the role and cites it's the worst character he's ever portrayed during his wrestling career. Yeah, even worse than Karma. Number 8. Mankind. When Mick Foley debuted in WWE as the Deranged Mankind, fans were quick to invest in the character. The character would be involved in iconic feuds with the likes of The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels and The Rock, and the character development from Foley was unbelievable. Popularity of the character aside, Foley himself wasn't actually a fan of the Mankind character. He stated in a number of interviews that he always hated wearing the Mankind mask, as it made it difficult for him to breathe during matches. Foley would also state that one of the issues he had with the gimmick was that he was always concerned that Vince McMahon wouldn't take it seriously, and that McMahon wouldn't see the Mankind character as a top guy. Number 7. Isaac Yankem. Now, before Kane debuted in the WWE in 1997 as The Undertaker's sinister brother, he would portray an infamous character known as Isaac Yankem DDS. This character was in essence a demonic dentist who enjoyed inflicting pain on his opponents. The gimmick was truly awful, and the man behind the character had so much potential beyond this lackluster gimmick. Kane himself has been extremely open over the years in relation to how much he hated the gimmick. In fact, he revealed during an interview with the two-man Power Trip of Wrestling that he was deflated the moment he was pitched the gimmick. The former WWE champion stated,
"I never forget going into Vince's, it's actually I go into J.J. Dillon's office, and Vince comes in and we're talking, and he lays out the Isaac Yankem thing for me, and I just literally was deflated, but not trying to show how deflated I was. But I'm there trying to figure out, oh, gosh, how am I going to make this thing work, and realizing that I didn't like it from the beginning, and I wasn't going to be able to make it work. And it probably isn't good when you make that decision as soon as something is presented to you. So a lot of the failure of that character is really due to me, and just the fact that I just couldn't get into it. But nevertheless, as things progressed, and I did not have the best of attitudes at times.
Number 6. Husky Harris. It is rather difficult to actually explain what Husky Harris's character was, because he didn't really show any personality or charisma. Harris was just a 300-pound guy who could move around the ring with ease. The character was weak, and the man portraying the character, Wyndham Rotunda, knew this. Rotunda has revealed in the past that the gimmick was the worst gimmick he's ever portrayed, and he would even claim that the gimmick destroyed him. Thankfully, he was able to discover the Bray Wyatt gimmick, and this would be a gimmick that would afford him great success and would even lead to him winning multiple world titles on the main roster. Number 5. Emelina. In 2016, vignettes began to air promoting the debut of Emelina. Emelina was the brand new gimmick for Emma, and it would act as a throwback to the divas of the Attitude Era such as Sable and the Cat. Vince McMahon was said to be rather hands-on with the new gimmick, and he invested a ton of time into making sure the gimmick worked. The issue was that Emma hated the gimmick. She didn't feel comfortable portraying the character, and this was something that infuriated the WWE chairman. The gimmick would eventually be dropped, and when Emma was released from WWE in 2017, her unwillingness to work with the new gimmick was cited as the official reason for her firing. Number 4. The Corporate Ministry, Undertaker. And the Ministry of Darkness was one of the coolest stables ever. The Undertaker influencing his ominous members into doing his bidding was such a great, compelling storyline. But that was until WWE decided to join the Ministry with Vince McMahon's corporation to create the Corporate Ministry. Fans hated this as it completely ruined the mystique and intrigue behind the Dead Man's faction, and now the Dead Man was just one of McMahon's heavies. It was reported that The Undertaker himself wasn't a fan of the gimmick change, and he didn't like the focus shifted completely onto McMahon. Apparently the Dead Man questioned the booking decision and the decision for him to change his character, but ultimately it was the WWE chairman who had the final say. Number 3. Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross found great success in NXT, winning the NXT title on 2 separate occasions. However, when he debuted on the main roster, his gimmick was changed, which completely turned fans against him. Kross would now wear gladiator-style attire and a bizarre helmet that resembled something a villain out of a children's TV show would wear. It was downright awful, and it was even made worse that Scarlett, who was Kross's valet, wasn't a part of his main roster presentation. Since his WWE departure, Kross has gone on record to state how much he hated this gimmick. At first, he believed the WWE were doing this so they were able to sell costumes at Halloween, but Kross quickly realized that wasn't the case, and there was no way that the gimmick was ever going to make him a top star. Number 2. King Hunter Hearst Helmsley. WWE made a big statement in 1997 when Hunter Hearst Helmsley won the King of the Ring. Helmsley was going to be a huge star for years to come, and WWE knew he had every tool to succeed at the highest level. However, when he had to embark on the traditional King gimmick, the future Triple H couldn't stand the gimmick. According to Bruce Pritchard, Triple H believed the gimmick was hokey, and the King crown made him look completely stupid. Now, in all fairness to Triple H, he was right. The gimmick didn't really work for him, and it was out of place for a 1997 product. Thankfully for Triple H, it was shortly after his King of the Ring victory that he joined forces with Shawn Michaels to create one of the most iconic stables of all time, D-Generation X. And number 1, Stardust. In 2014, WWE wanted to try something new with Cody Rhodes. Rhodes was going to change his gimmick and character and turn into Stardust. Stardust was similar to Goldust, but Stardust was more inspired by cosmology rather than the movies. Fans didn't know what to make of the gimmick, as fans were perfectly happy with Rhodes' previous gimmick and they believe it didn't need to be changed. Rhodes himself wasn't a fan of the gimmick, and he was disappointed that he virtually turned into Goldust 2.0. In fact, Rhodes hated the gimmick so much that when he returned to WWE at WrestleMania 38, one of the conditions of his return was that he would never portray the Stardust character ever again. But there you have it, folks, 10 WWE wrestlers who hated their own gimmick. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.